2020 to order. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have a happy cause to amend the agenda. I would appreciate a motion to create a new agenda item number 6 between our public hearing for the Freedom Reigns Children's Daycare Center for their grant and the Liquor Control Board, and that new agenda item would be discussing a potential appointment to the Planning Commission and potentially making that appointment tonight.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we've got a new agenda item. Now we'll move on to warrants. Now you have a infrastructure development.
I have the infrastructure development account, and it's for a total of $411,853.94. And
No, I think it's 430 up at the top.
Yeah.
oh, excuse me,
$430,000.
excuse me, yes. $430,038.84.
There we go. That's all related to the construction of the new garage.
WB Mason, Connor, Integrity Communications.
Well, out of the 430,000, almost 412,000 went to Connor Construction. I think that's the last payment for the garage.
Pretty close,
Pretty close to it.
95%,
Yeah.
or 98% close.
Okay, you take a motion to approve that warrant?
So move that we approve the infrastructure account development of $430,038.84.
Second it.
Okay, any discussion? Questions for Matt, anyone? All in favor?
We're gonna do that later.
Yeah, I know, but just related to any of those expenses. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Jessica, payroll warrants.
Okay, the first payroll is January 24th. Oh, it says 2019, but it should be 2020. For $20,630.74. And the second is January 31st, 2020 for $35,005.86. I make a motion that we approve these payroll warrants.
As amended.
Second,
As amended. I'm gonna make that one amendment.
as approved.
Okay, so, the second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, people are paid. I have the general fund warrant. It's important to note that Vice Chair Bruce Cheeseman and Stan Dukas are both home sick with the flu tonight. We wish them a speedy recovery and hope they feel better soon. So I have the general fund warrant in front of me, and it's for the amount of $32,735.06. To make Stan proud, I found the biggest cumulative expense, and it was salt from Cargill, and it was $15,737.90, which made up 48.1% of the warrant. Then we had some sewer inspections from Wind River Environmental that totaled almost $3,200, and it was about 10% of the warrants. So those are the two largest expenses, and I entertain a motion to approve that
So
warrant.
move that we approve that.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So now we're on the minutes.
Okay, so I would like to approve the minutes of January 21st, 1920, January 16th, 1920, 2020, and
Happens.
January 15th of 2020. But before I move the actual approval, I would like to say that these three warrants are probably, these three minutes are probably the most complicated that I have seen in the last 3 years of my service. They covered a multiple of issues where we had a large town turnout, and the reporting and the of the warrants and what people spoke was absolutely phenomenal. And as I told Jen, I think it's a great record for the history books as people look back at us in 100 years from now to see how we made decisions in the town. So with that, I move that we approve those three warrants as printed.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, guys.
This was great.
Don't forget to sign stuff. Yep.
Right, absolutely. So now we're on to agenda item 4, which is public comment. Is anybody here to make a public comment? David, come on up.
So we're gonna time people, public comments are,
3 minutes.
My public comment will be short.
okay.
We put out the brochure.
What's that?
Who put out this brochure?
The city and town.
City and town? That emblem on the cover over the swimming pool is the emblem for the city of St. Albans. If we're gonna be part of the ownership of it, why isn't the town in on that also?
It was a mock photograph that somebody from Messenger Marketing made, Dave. I didn't think to dive into it.
Yeah. It does say St. Albans Recreation, it's got the emblem, and that's what they use on their doors of their vehicles. So if the town's gonna be part of it, I think that ought to be changed on.
Okay,
That's my only grade.
okay, all right. Easy enough. All right. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is a public hearing. And Carrie, if you would read that motion
Yeah.
into the record.
And also Grant is here. Grant, if you
Yeah.
could come forward and just sit at public comment, and
Sure.
for the record, just state your name.
Grant Butterfield. I live in St. Albans and I'm representing Freedom Reigns Daycare Centre.
So the town of St. Albans is considering making an application to the state of Vermont for a VCDP planning grant. It's a, I don't remember exactly all the, Vermont Community Development Program. This is a public hearing to be held at 6:30 on February 3rd, 2020 at 579 Lake Road to obtain the views of citizens on community development, to furnish information concerning the amount of funds available and the range of community development activities that may be undertaken with this program, the impact to any historic and archaeological resources that may be affected by the proposed project, and to give affected citizens the opportunity to examine the proposed statement of project use of these funds. The proposal is to apply for $50,000 in VCDP funds, which will be used to accomplish the following activities: to assist Freedom Reigns Children's Center to purchase land and build a new state-of-the-art children's center in St. Albans, Vermont. This new building would comply with state and federal regulation requirements to operate a child care facility for up to 65 students. Copies of this proposed application are available here at Town Hall and may be viewed during business hours, which are 8 to 4. Should you require any special accommodations, please let Jennifer or myself know.
Okay.
Now, open the hearing.
Okay, I need a motion to open this public hearing on this, yeah, okay.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Butterfield. So we're here today to.
It kinda
It's pretty
summed it up.
self-explanatory, yeah. How much
I guess it happens in two layers, right? So there's,
Yes.
so VCPD, is it, or DP?
D as in dog.
Yeah. They meet 3 times a year and then they allocate funds out to
That's correct.
different entities that are doing very similar things to what we're doing. And so to start the process, we are going to be looking for the need of the town to see if it's a viable project. And if it is, that money goes to the environmental inspection, it goes to architect fees. There's certain layers that the funding has to go to, and you apply for a certain amount of money doesn't mean you get it. It just, you sort of get what you get.
That's right.
So your very first step is to find out the need for childcare?
That's one of the, that's probably the first layer from a business standpoint. I think it's fair to say that, you know, we believe that there's a need,
Yep.
right? And the state tell us that there's a need,
Yep.
but to access the funding for it,
You
I have to
prove it.
go through that process.
Right.
Correct.
You know, there's another process that you can just not take the first grant and just run the risk without doing it, but
So who would you approach to do this analytically? How do you figure out if there's a need? I know there's a need, but
Yeah.
how do you prove it?
so there's a couple of different ways to do it through the state. Let's Grow Kids. There's a couple of other child resource developments. They're the people that say, okay, you've got this amount of people in the town of St. Albans, and one was recently done, exactly the same thing was done on Lake Street in the city, and they went about it exactly the same way that we are.
Okay, and do you have any, not knowing where the children are yet,
Now,
do you have any preferred area of the town, north, east, south, or west?
so I've been in some negotiations on a property at Exit 19
Okay,
with a landowner there. I think it's fair to say I started the negotiation 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, which is actually why I'm here in St. Albans, because I came up to look to start for a daycare centre, and I saw a house I liked and bought it.
Wow.
Well, it's my wife, really. It's not me, that's the daycare.
so,
Expert, yeah.
is this the St. Albans exit?
Oh, yeah, it's exit.
Yeah, Exit 19.
Playing on Brexit.
Right, yeah.
Oh,
That's the preferred location for us.
got it. Okay.
I know that there's a need, and that's a great location because of people going to Burlington,
Sure.
dropping their children
Yep.
off, picking them up. I'm also familiar with the Colchester program you have.
Okay, thanks.
So do we,
So this is your application and you just need the town support to move forward.
Yeah, I just need,
Well, no, the town is
The
also
town.
supporting in a way that you have to have some sort of municipal connection, so.
yeah, so the town applied for the grant.
Correct,
The state give the town the grant, and then the grant give it to
right.
the people that I distributed it to.
what if
That
we,
makes sense.
would it make sense to write a letter in support of this
It's
application?
not appropriate at this time, I don't
No.
think it's necessary.
After
This
the
is-
data collection tells us what we already know? No?
The support is that we are assisting Grant, and Jen has spent some time with Grant
Yes.
and the Grant people
Yep.
at the state to get this to where we're at today. So we just appreciate the support,
Yeah,
and we don't need a motion, we just had to have the hearing so other people could weigh in if they wanted to.
Okay.
So but the town is the applicant?
yes.
Okay. And then who signs on behalf of the town?
Myself,
Okay, and you don't need any further authority for that?
I do not.
Great, okay,
Perfect.
super.
I think maybe I'm wrong, but it happens in two layers, right? So we have, once we have an understanding of the need, and then we go to
There's a planning grant and a construction.
Yeah.
I mean, they have, I'm sure, a longer term, but that's what it really means.
Got it. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Beautiful.
no questions? Oh, yeah,
One
one.
question? Paul?
Yeah, on the grant, are there any encumbrances on the grant? Does it have to be paid back? Is it a loan to get some, like seed money?
No, it's a grant, like in the true sense of the word grant, it's a grant.
It's given, money given away?
Yes, and there's no town match required.
Okay, okay.
Which
And
often,
to select person, Rogel, you're familiar with this organization in Colchester?
Yes, as town manager, they
Yeah.
have a facility in the, I forget the name of the industrial park, but across.
We're in between Costco and the bowling alley.
Right.
and
We have
actually,
a centre there for 90 kids.
not, how many?
90? We did have another one in Williston too for 75.
Suzanne, I'm not sure what her title is, Butterfield, gave me a tour of the facility, it was beautiful. Just last month, I
And it's
think.
been in existence for a long, long time.
Yeah, she's been in business there for 23 years.
Wow.
And there's a significant waiting list there.
There is,
too.
yeah.
Great. Thank you. Well, if you need anything from us, let us know. We're here to help. Whatever needed.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Close the
think I got it.
hearing.
Okay.
So move to close the hearing on the grant
Second it.
application?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we've got a new agenda item regarding potentially appointing a new planning commissioner. Ann?
What's up? I'm sorry.
No, not Ann, no. Ann.
And
Ann.
With an E,
Without
not an A.
Both in the same area too.
And, yeah.
And when I say Pomeroy, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so Ann Larner Pomeroy.
Yeah.
Daughter of former select person Paul Larner, who's been attending a few of our meetings lately.
And mother.
And mother, Sally Larner, long time
Big part of
supporter of
that.
the museum and the town. Sorry, forgot. She has sent us a letter of interest into being appointed to the planning commission. She served on the DRB for a number of years, knows the history of the town, and I personally have found her voice to be a voice of reason and pragmatism regarding the Hard Act proposal. I would fully support appointing her. And in this case, we would actually be appointing you to finish a term that somebody relinquished several months ago. And it's only good for another month, but then we would reappoint you. The thought is to provide you with as many meetings as possible with the people that are already there. Because we feel that there's a good chance we may lose a few of them in the coming months. So the idea of giving you as many meetings as possible to be able to continue on their work and know what direction they were planning to head. If you're interested in that, I think it would be a great idea to appoint you.
So, do you have any comments, Ann, before we do?
No, not at all, actually.
I would move that we appoint Ann Pomeroy to the vacancy on the town planning commission.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're on to the Liquor Control Board. We need a motion to recess as the Select Board and convene as the Liquor Control Board.
I'll make a motion to recess as the select board and reconvene as the liquor control board.
Second?
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Liquor Control Board, we have some license renewals in front of us. I'm gonna read them all off. Hannaford, second class. Burton Island, second class. St. Albans Jolly, second class. Walmart, second class. Mill River Brewing for third class, outside consumption and first class. Bronson's Landing for third class, outside consumption and first class. The VFW for first class, third class, and outside consumption. Our wonderful town clerk, Anna, do you have any issues with
There's no
any of these?
issues, no.
Okay, so, any
Other
comments
than
from the
drink
public
alcohol.
on any of these license renewals?
Yeah, all right.
So I'll move that we approve these license requests.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So, now we're gonna move on. We need to adjourn as the Liquor Control Board and reconvene as the Select Board.
I'll make a motion to adjourn as the liquor control board and reconvene as the select board.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, alright. So now we are to the town manager's report. And we have the project manager, Matt Young, here to give us an update on the new Department of Public Works garage.
Good evening. Well, I guess a little bit of sadness, but a little bit of happiness. This actually will be my last meeting as an update for the garage. You know, I was actually thinking back, it's been almost a year since last time we first sat here, you know, right before the town meeting vote last year, and it's been a successful project, and as like my report says, January 9th, the town had received a certificate of occupancy for the project, and essentially I went through the job cost reports compared to with Anna's reports, and you know that we probably have incurred, I'd say almost 98-99% of the cost today. There's some stragglers here and there, but I anticipate that we'll be about $25,000 under budget from what was anticipated. So that money would then go towards the salt shed. So whatever's left, you know, it kind of becomes part of the salt shed funds for that.
And where are we with that?
Glad you asked. So on the salt shed, I met with V-Trans last week, and there's been some hiccup on their end on where things were and the processes. Bottom line is they want us to redo our RFQ process, and which is the request for qualifications. We had already done an RFQ process way back, you know, I think it was late summer.
Yep.
And I had a full understanding that our process would be accepted and it'd be fine, but they said no after we find out months later. And part of the RFQ process is that because where we're located, I tried to stress to V-Trans that, you know, most of the builders up here are not gonna be V-Trans qualified because they don't do roads. It's not a horizontal project, it's a vertical project. So what they had opted to do, and I was kind of against that in the sense because it would really put a lot of stress on, and I think it would deter bidders because the process is so strenuous. It's almost ridiculous for this type of project. And so they had agreed to go through a more of a shortened RFQ process, and so they developed their own RFQ, and then they had to get a Federal Highway Department to approve that. That's what was kind of delaying it. The Federal Highway Department has now approved it. Now it's back in V-Trans side, and they're waiting for their internal legal team to review it and to approve the shortened RFQ process.
So, what they're not accepting the one you originally did?
No, they're not.
So how does this differ from the one you originally did?
The one I did, I developed it myself,
Okay.
and they didn't accept that.
Oh, okay, after you put it out? and got-
Yes.
Okay.
But they gave you good reason to believe that they would accept it.
Yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone down that road, because we were really pushing to try to get
Right.
the bids in and have it under construction
You know,
by fall.
It's not right to talk down about people who just gave you $376,000, but that sounds like a lot of bureaucracy to me.
Yeah.
We could have had this thing built by now.
Yeah, that was the goal. So, so we reestablished, the schedule. So right now, I expect hopefully by either later this week or next week, we will receive the new RFQs. That'll go out publicly. It'll be like a 3-week window time frame. And during that time frame, they will go back and reassess the bid documents that I had sent to them last fall. And then the goal is that, let's say by mid-March to late March, we'd have a bid, a public bid process, so that we can begin construction May, June of this year.
Okay.
That's the goal.
All right.
So, but other than that, with the garage project, again, like I say, it was very, very successful, and contracting did an excellent job. They had excellent subs.
Other local vendors.
Yep.
Harrison Concrete, Hungerford Paving, Partners Excavation, Bolak and Irick out in Islands.
Yeah.
Who did the HVAC? I'm trying to remember.
Alonda.
Yeah.
Yep, and Cummins Electric.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember all the local folks. If I forgot anybody, I apologize. Yeah, no, it was a good local project.
It was, yeah.
Any questions from the public for Matt? David?
Yeah, in reference to the water and sewer hookup, I'm glad you were able to hook on with the city water and sewer. I hope the city didn't charge you any affiliation fee, did they?
No.
Okay,
They don't charge affiliate fees, no, they don't charge those fees to nonprofits.
nonprofit, that's
We had to
right.
pay $24,000 or so in hookup fees for the sewer.
Everyone has to pay.
Yeah, everyone has to pay that, and it's per EU.
How'd they come up with a figure of 24,000?
Per EU.
We have the
Pretty.
bill, the next time you're in my office, I can show it to you.
If anybody ever wants to go through any of the bills related to this project, just to see what it went into it, feel free.
We have a couple binders.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Good project, though. Any more questions for Matt? Thank you, and we'll
Thanks,
see you
Matt.
about
Thanks,
this
Matt.
auction.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you later on.
Yes.
Try
Thank
not to get caught up in too much of that red tape.
you. Thank you.
Thanks.
So next we have the St. Albans Historical Society here. Alex is here with some other board members, but I think Alex is gonna take the lead on providing an annual report. Did you wanna start with that video?
Yeah, that way we can show
Okay.
everything.
So Alex has a great video for us to watch. I don't know how well our sound is gonna work on that though.
So just to give you a quick 10-second overview, this is a film that was put together by the Agency of Agriculture. And it's for our Lake Lessons program, which is a series of ecology and history workshops that we put on for students from Georgia Elementary Middle School, St. Albans City School, and St. Albans Town Educational Center last fall down at the Bay Park.
Oh,
That's actually for the back. Trying to go.
There you go. You all set?
Yes.
On the other side, Alex.
We're here today for Lake Lessons, which is all about getting local students from the area schools down here to the lake and to understand how their watershed and how the lake connects to their lives and how they impact the lake.
The idea is that when we talk about St. Albans Bay or we talk about Lake Champlain, there's an environmental story and there's a historical story, and those aren't mutually exclusive. And so we wanted to find a way at the museum to be able to bring this to life for students in a way that would be meaningful for them. So for us, it was important that Lake Lessons would be place-based. So of course we're down here at St. Albans Bay, and that it would be hands-on. So we reached out to a couple other community partners, state agencies, nonprofits, and educators to kind of bring together this series of workshops where we offer these half-day enrichment programs for free for local schools.
We're learning about what's getting put into our Lake Champlain and how we can fix what's going on.
Like basically how our everyday activities like affect and like create pollution.
Our station specifically is talking about agriculture and how farmers impact the lake through their practices and how they can protect water quality through conservation practices and best management practices.
I learned that like we can like build these little like troughs to like prevent like soil and like stuff that's in soil from like going into the rivers, which flood into the lakes, which can make algae grow.
Like for cows, fences, fences, and soil and all that stuff.
For me, that was so meaningful to be able to provide this opportunity where they could kind of interact with the natural world around them, learn about issues that impact the health of their ecosystem and what their role is and how they can play a part. And to me, that's what good science and good history education is all about.
I mean, it's cold. That's the only bad thing.
Better than being in the classrooms.
That's great.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. Sorry.
Just what came up next.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share that video. Appreciate the invitation to be here this evening. Thanks to the select board, town staff, and of course residents and citizens. You're the reason we have a story to tell, so we're grateful for your support. All of our members, donors, and friends, and some friendly faces from the board and membership here in the audience tonight. There'll be a copy of the annual report in the annual town publication, but I wanted to come and spend a few minutes with you to highlight the work that we've done this past year. And the reason I wanted to start with the video that we just showed you is Lake Lessons really gets at the heart of our mission at the museum. We certainly know there's a story to tell when it comes to the history of St. Albans Bay. At one time was known as Port Washington. There was shipbuilding, tourism, all kinds of great things happening down there. The first boat to traverse the Champlain Erie canals from Vermont to New York City, built right here in St. Albans Bay. So there's a great historical story to tell, but we knew that it wasn't the only one. And so for us, this partnership where we collaborated with state agencies, local nonprofits, educators, advocates to bring this sort of hands-on education to students for free was something that was really important for us, sort of touching on our work to bring the past to life, but also recognizing that there's sort of a contemporary piece to that as well. And we're grateful to the Town of St. Albans Public Works Department, which helped us operate in the park for those few days in September, and we're coming back for our third season of Lake Lessons this year, which we're really excited about. So just to give you a sense of where the museum's at, we're in the third year, moving into the third year of our 10-year strategic plan. So I came and talked to you a few years ago about Vision 2027, which is all about trying to achieve financial and organizational sustainability. And we've made some good progress in those areas. In 2018 and 2019, we set some records for the modern version of the museum in terms of attendance at our programs and events, which we're really proud of, focusing on educational mission, reaching students. Just this week I'm going to have students from town school and city school coming in for 3D Vermont, where they research historic buildings and then use that information to build accurate 3D models for a statewide competition. So it's a way that we are able to utilize our archives and our files and sort of bring those to life for students that are working on a project. We offer events, of course, around historical topics, but we also try to be a broad-based community educator. So, of course, this year we had some great talks with some help from the Vermont Humanities Council. One was on Abenaki history and culture, another was on the Weimar Republic. But we were also really pleased to bring a presentation on canine communication and the USS Vermont, which is going to be commissioned, I think, later this year. So again, recognizing that there are some old stories to tell, but also some contemporary topics of interest that are really important to our community. This year we tried to offer a diverse array of programming that kind of went beyond the traditional lecture format. We had a comedian come and perform, we had several concerts, some art displays and things like that. We're also really proud that we sort of serve as a gathering space and a community space in terms of seasonal events. So when Festival of Trees is happening, when Last Night, which is the New Year's Eve event that started 2 years ago, is happening, there's a portion of that that's taking place at the museum, and we're happy to donate our blister room space to be able to accommodate those events. The outgrowth of that is community partnerships. Lake Lessons is only possible because we bring together 4 or 5 other nonprofits and state agencies. We work with the Basin Program, NCSS, Rise Vermont, some other great community organizations to ensure that we're bringing relevant programming and sort of updating our mission to meet the needs of today's visitors. So for example, one of the things we're working on is creating youth activity spaces that are in all of our exhibit rooms, so that our youngest visitors have a reason to get excited and get hands-on with things that are happening in the museum, which, as you can imagine, is a place where normally you don't get to touch a lot of things or play with a lot of things. The other piece is we've started an oral history project, so we're interviewing a number of residents, asking for their memories of their parents and grandparents, to kind of connect those stories and preserve them before they're lost to time. So that's another really important part of the work we're doing. I'm pleased that we're in our second year of offering internships. So we've been able to secure some grant funding so that local college students are able to get hands-on professional experience. We're sort of training the next generation of cultural heritage leaders and museum professionals, and that's something that I'm really proud that we're able to do. And then, of course, we wouldn't be who we are without our volunteers. Sam only had paid professional staff within the last, I think, 10 years. We were founded in 1966. The museum itself opened in 1971. So what's kept us going all that time is a wonderful crew of volunteers, approximately 35, right about now, who come in and serve as docents, which are guides. They help out with special events and programming. They work in our research room and archives. They help with exhibit design and those sorts of things. So we're really grateful and encourage volunteer support. If you know anyone who may be interested, have them reach out to us. When we came to talk to you several years ago about Vision 2027, it was a conversation about how we could achieve sustainability. One of the things the museum has taken seriously is increasing our fundraising programs. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We're responsible for generating about $140,000 a year to operate. We went from 3 to 5 fundraisers in the last several years, and we introduced some new ones. So this past year, for the first time ever, we had a night at the USO Canteen, a themed swing dance featuring the Weed Imperial Orchestra, or Eric Bushy's version of the band, which was an amazing night in full costume, donuts and egg salad sandwiches and big band music. It was like taking a step back in time. So we really are trying to find ways that are fun but also can help raise funds to support the museum. We're also proud of other programs like our annual Calcutta. We've actually managed to double the amount of money that we've brought in the last few years just by making some tweaks to the program. So we are working hard as a board and as an organization to increase our sustainability and our capacity in that sense. Finally, I just wanted to touch on the building and what's happening with our historic space. If you don't know already or haven't been in the museum, it's an 1861 Renaissance Revival school building, which operated as a school until, I believe, 1969, before the museum opened in 1971. So as you can imagine, with any historic building, we're dealing with some issues in the roof and the cupola. We've had some water leaks and just some other issues with windows and sealing up the building during the winter and those sorts of things. So we've taken some real proactive steps to make sure that we can perform the necessary maintenance and historic preservation that the facility needs. We've also applied for some grants and have some, hopefully some funding coming to us this year to help us really deal with the roof, the original slate roof, and make sure that we're taking care of the building. So we recognize it's a community resource. It's part of the St. Albans Historic District, which makes up kind of a big block downtown, and something we're really proud of. This year we installed a brand new security system, which I don't need to tell you is a great achievement for our organization. And what I'm really proud of is the work that we're doing in terms of exhibits. So again, because we didn't have always the capacity or the resources, some of the exhibit rooms hadn't changed for a lot of years, which you can expect with a volunteer organization. We were able to do work in some areas and not in others. But we've really made it a priority to give folks a reason to come back, to see the museum again, to bring out-of-town guests, to bring their families, to encourage annual school trips, which we have many. A few years ago, we began with our Women's History exhibit, which won an award from the state. The year before last was Farming Franklin County, which is all agricultural history. And we're hoping for more community participation in this year's project, which is the Rail City History Project. It's a twofold effort. The first is oral history. So if you know someone who has a family connection to the Central Vermont Railway or railroading in general, and they want to come talk to us, we're happy to sit down and interview them. We're also doing some renovations and building on the legacy that Jim Murphy put together in the railroad room, doing some work to the room itself, installing new AV components, and really trying to find ways to tell more stories about the folks who lived and breathed the Rail City. Imagine the time when there were 23 tracks downtown, and that you couldn't hang laundry outside because it would be covered in soot, and that you heard train whistles night and day. It's sort of lost on us now what that means, so we're really trying to capture that history. The other thing that's really important to us is bringing in traveling exhibits so that folks in our community have an opportunity to see some of the best historical exhibitions that come from other parts of the state. 2 years ago, it was an exhibit on Alexander Hamilton, which came from the Gilder Learman Institute in New York City. Last year, it was Signs of the Times. We also had Last of the Hill Farms, which is the great photography by Richard Brown, featuring Vermont's rugged agricultural landscape, and Seeds of Renewal, which is all about Abenaki agriculture. This year, our lone exhibit coming from the Folklife Center is called Ice Shanties, and it's all about the history and the legacy and the stories behind how we spend time on ice during the winter. So that'll be here in time for the Maple Festival, the last weekend in April, and then it'll be on loan through the early part of the summer. So these are just a few areas that I wanted to highlight for you tonight to give you a sense of when we talk about bringing history to life, when we talk about your community museum, when we talk about being more than a museum, you understand that it's about this educational mission, it's about preserving the heritage of our community, it's about educating the next generation, working with students and teachers, and it's about providing a community resource that we can be proud of and that our community can take advantage of now and for generations to come. I appreciate the opportunity to share that with you.
Thank you. Any questions for Alex? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. The video was worth it.
Yeah. No, this is such a good community resource, and I say this as a trustee, so I'm a little biased, but it's important, especially when we talk about our budget, that our annual contribution to the museum is about 10% in comparison to the annual contribution to the library. So we have this wonderful resource at such a low cost to our community. It's only $15,000 per year from the town. It's really not that much money for what we get in return.
Right.
So, thank you, Alex.
Thanks. All right. So the last item under town manager's report is the water wastewater allocation request for the pool, community pool. This is our practice. We bring applications to you, request that the select review them. Did this one no different than the others. So looking for a motion to support that request.
I'll make a motion to support the allocation request.
From the city of St.
The
Albans.
city of St. Albans for the community pool.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion.
Do you want to discuss? I mean, do we have anybody here that would like to discuss that? Sorry.
Second, all in favor, yes.
Okay. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 3-0. Sorry about that. Now we're on to schedule. Our next regular meetings are February 18th.
Which is a Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday due to President's Day.
Mhm.
And then Monday, March 2nd, which is our last meeting before the town meeting day election. We have some informational hearings and the proposal for HARDAC for a new community pool. Monday, February 10th. It's a city, town, and HARDAC board, kind of a joint meeting, and it's being held at City Hall in their large room at 8 p.m. so we could get as many people as we could. Also, the city was already having a 7 p.m. hearing on their local option tax proposal, so we piggybacked onto that, so we could get a night that would work for everyone.
What date was it?
It's the 10th at 8 p.m. And then we have, there's another informational meeting on the pool. I think it's a regular city council meeting too, on Monday, February 24th. It's just the city council, no select board, and that's at City Hall at 7 p.m. And then just the select board will have an informational section of our agenda for the Monday, March 2nd meeting here at Town Hall at 6:30.
And there's some printed flyers in the back of the room that have those dates and times as well.
And we'll make sure to get it on our website and Facebook too. Any discussion on schedule? Alright, so chair's report, I have nothing worth noting at this point. Other business, anyone? Peter?
A year ago or so, I came down, I had a meeting with Mr. Diesel and Ms. Johnson about a junk ordinance. And Mr. Diesel and I shook hands on it as a gentleman's agreement that this is gonna take place. I've talked to Mr. Pogel, I've talked to you at Walmart, and I've talked to Stan Dukas as well. And I see this going in a direction that it may not have to go. I guess my documents say let me give you pass this around so that you at least take a look at it. There's a building supposed to be put up and a fence put up. As per our agreement. With the yellow line there? Okay, and this is the letter I got from Carrie at the same time, saying if this stuff happened, which happened in May of 2019, that this ticket would be dismissed. And the ticket still goes on.
Carrie? We did meet.
We did meet, so do you want to debate this right now?
I
can, I'm fine.
No.
So I don't have the file and I haven't looked at it in a number of months. I think I wrote that in June. The challenge was at that time that you and I, we had a difference of opinion on what we were calling screening.
And I showed you the screening that I was gonna put up, and you okayed it, and it's up.
It doesn't adequately screen all of the junk all year round.
Well, and you approved the screening.
I approved a box of screening.
I brought the screening.
So if we're gonna debate this, then you need to let me talk when it's my turn and I will let you do the same.
Okay.
So when you brought me the box of screening, I said that will work, but it needs to be doubled up. Will it go the entire distance of the snow fence? And you said yes. And so when you actually put the fencing up, I can't adequately draw this, but the gray screening that you suggested would screen your junk covers maybe 50% of the snow fence. That's not adequately screening the junk from the public right-of-way. So with that being said, and having a difference of opinion on how we define screening, I did let the Judicial Bureau ticket proceed. Also, as you know, neither one of us had heard anything from them for a number of months, so I'm not quite sure unless you've heard something from them recently why you're here today.
I got a notice in the mail to show up.
Okay. So you also know how to reach me though, and what I said to you was I wanted to work with you and I've gotten no phone calls.
And in my behalf, you told me I had it singled, and you said it wasn't adequate singled. I doubled it, and there's 16 feet of fence there, and all 16 feet are covered. I will take you a picture if you like.
No, if you'd like, I can go out and visit that again and look at it. What I don't understand is why when we had a working arrangement, you waited till a select board meeting to debate this when I could have already looked at it for you.
Well, I was assuming that you go by my house every day, and obviously, I'm not telling you to look at my yard every day, but one of them days, you may have looked that way and saw everything was up to
So
up
I
to
guess
par.
Peter, I understand why you're here, but in the future, I think it would be advantageous for all parties involved if this type of a confrontation could happen not in such a public space.
Well, I think you probably should know what goes on here.
They can, but if your goal here is to resolve it and have the ticket go away
No, I'm not,
quicker.
I'm just.
It's not your goal?
Well, yes, part of it is yes.
I would think so,
So
so
the other part of
might wanna call
it
it.
is for the public to know that, obviously, the person on one end of this is gonna work a lot harder than the person on the other end proceeded to be.
Peter, I think if you want to accomplish something, you need to do it by working with the principals involved, and that's the town manager.
Well,
And you want to use honey, not vinegar, if you want to be successful.
I understand that, but I'm saying that I have discussed it
We did.
in a place where, out of this forum,
Yes, you,
with several selectmen,
when you talk to me, and I assume when you talk to Stan and others, on an individual basis, all we can do is listen. Remember, when you talk to us individually, we're just plain citizens.
I understand that.
And I told you then, as I believe at the hospital, that you should talk to Carrie and work it out.
And that's why we met, was to meet with Carrie and to work it out.
Yeah.
I mean, so, where we're at, the ticket, you have a hearing date, is that what you got notified of? We had heard nothing about the ticket for several months, since before we had met.
It's been like 14 months.
Right, but we hadn't received any notification from the Judicial Bureau that it had proceeded. Given that development, Carrie will review everything again, and she will let you know what she
Well,
decides.
obviously, it's a good thing I came, because obviously if you did get notice,
Right, but when is this ticket, when is the hearing?
I think it's the 23rd of March.
Oh, okay, so
We have a
month.
We did not get notice, which is the problem.
We will review it,
That we didn't get notice.
we'll look at it, and then Carrie will let you know in writing what she finds.
Because, okay, according to this, what we agreed on that day, 16 feet of fences up, it's double lined, actually it's 4 lined, because I took it and folded it half over this side, half the other side. So it's 4 layers instead of 2,
Okay,
and the building's up. The building was up in May.
the property does look significantly better than I remembering it looked years ago, so kudos to you for that. We'll work with Carrie, she'll perform her duties, it's not up to us at this point, and she'll let you know in writing what she finds.
Okay.
Alright, thank you. Any other business? Anybody have a public comment that they want to speak?
You know what I'd like to see is that screen right there, right on that front wall, because you can't see what's on the agenda and there's no agenda out back, so could you put that screen over on that wall? Why?
Because we have our logo there.
You can put it to the right of Al, right above his head,
We could,
or over there where that picture is.
Over here would be better because you have no light.
Yeah,
Does the thing tilt? It might turn. That's what Brendan just said, we can
they make
we can look at
they
it.
make a full motion mount at Walmart.
Yeah,
Yeah, because-
swivel.
Yeah, it comes out and it turns, we'll
Yeah.
configure this.
We could
out.
spend 5 cents and print the copies of it.
That works too.
I prefer that myself. But we
Spend
can,
$1 and move it over there.
yeah,
And put that over there.
what was that?
Just run it over the top.
We don't have executive session, so we can start with the copies.
that'd
Okay,
be nice to see.
any other business? Alright,
Move to adjourn?
take a second.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we are adjourned, thank you very much.
Oh.